The city was alive, with the morning pulse of ambition, glass towers reflecting the sun, engines humming, footsteps echoing across the polished marble of a corporate plaza. Among the stream of executives, one little girl stood out, her soft pink dress brushing against her knees as she clutched a small toy in her hand. Her name was Sophie, a quiet 6-year-old whose mother, Clara, worked as a corporate translator for one of the wealthiest businessmen in the city, Mr. Liang, a self-made millionaire whose empire stretched across continents. That morning was supposed to be routine. Clara had brought Sophie along because the babysitter canceled, and she promised her daughter it would only be a short stop before heading home. But in a single moment, that ordinary morning twisted into something that would change all their lives forever. Before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The morning light poured through the towering glass entrance as Clara crouched beside Sophie, adjusting her cardigan. Behind them, 3 uniformed security guards stood by a sleek black car parked near the curb. Mr. Liang had just finished a press meeting and was due to head to another event. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. The air was calm, almost rehearsed. Sophie's curious eyes wandered from her mother to the guards who were speaking quietly among themselves. She tilted her head, catching words she didn't understand. And then suddenly, she did. Clara had been teaching Sophie small phrases in different languages for fun, and Chinese happened to be one of them. The girl recognized just enough to freeze where she stood. The words floated from their mouths like ice. The bomb is under the seat. He won't make it past the bridge. Her tiny fingers tightened around her toy. Her breath caught. She didn't move, but the color drained from her face. Clara noticed her daughter's sudden stiffness and knelt beside her, concern clouding her expression. "Sophie, what's wrong?" she whispered. But the child only stared at the guards, her lips trembling. Mr. Liang was walking toward the car, shaking hands with a few associates, smiling as if the world were his. Sophie turned toward him, her small voice breaking through the hum of engines and chatter. "Don't get in the car." For a moment, the plaza froze, heads turned. The girl's cry sliced through the air like an alarm bell. The guards straightened, their eyes flashing panic, before one of them reached for his earpiece. Clara's heart stopped. She didn't know why Sophie had shouted, but the terror in her daughter's voice was unmistakable. Mr. Liang hesitated mid-step, confusion and concern blending on his face. Then he saw the girl's trembling hand pointing toward the vehicle. Something in her eyes, that raw, desperate sincerity, made him step back. "Wait," he ordered. In seconds, the security team moved in, scanning the car. One of the guards, nervous and sweating, tried to deflect, insisting everything was fine. But when another guard opened the back door, the faint ticking noise silenced every sound in the plaza. The next moments blurred police alarms, panicked shouting, a rushed evacuation, and then the explosion ripped through the parking area, throwing smoke and debris into the sky. The car had detonated prematurely, sparing everyone who had hesitated to climb inside. Mr. Liang stood there, shaken but alive. The force of the blast had knocked him backward, his white shirt etching with dust. Sophie clung to her mother's waist, eyes wide, sobbing softly. The surviving guards were apprehended immediately. 2 of them turned out to be imposters, hired through a shadow security firm, part of a plot that investigators later uncovered as a targeted assassination attempt. Hours later, when the chaos settled, the millionaire sat across from Clara and Sophie in the sterile calm of the police station. His eyes, usually sharp and calculating, now carried something new: gratitude and guilt. "She saved my life," he said softly, looking at the child, who hid half her face behind her mother's arm. Sophie didn't answer. She just nodded slightly, her eyes red from crying. Mr. Liang exhaled slowly, his voice breaking. "I don't think anyone has ever done that for me before." Days turned into weeks. The news made headlines across the country. "Millionaire saved by child's warning." But what the cameras didn't capture was how that single act of bravery reshaped the lives of everyone involved. Mr. Liang visited Clara and Sophie often. He learned that Clara had been raising her daughter alone since her husband's passing 2 years earlier. She worked long hours, translating documents and attending corporate meetings just to keep their small apartment. Sophie had learned bits of Chinese from listening to her mother practice at home, the same language that unknowingly helped her prevent a tragedy. What began as gratitude soon became something deeper. Mr. Liang found comfort in their presence, the laughter he'd long forgotten, the warmth of home he hadn't felt in years. For Sophie, he became like the father she missed so deeply, someone who listened to her stories and encouraged her curiosity. For Clara, he was a reminder that kindness still existed in a world that often felt cold and transactional. Slowly, he began supporting Clara's work, funding a language education program in Sophie's name to help children from struggling families learn foreign languages, so they can be brave, too, he said with a gentle smile. But what truly changed Mr. Ling wasn't the act of being saved. It was realizing how little things he had ignored in his life could mean everything. He had spent decades building walls of wealth and power, but it took a child's innocent courage to show him that humanity still mattered more than any empire. Months later, as the three of them stood together on the same plaza where it all happened, the city alive around them, Mr. Ling turned to Sophie and said, "You didn't just save my life, you reminded me what it means to live it." The little girl smiled shyly and looked at her mother, who squeezed her shoulder proudly. The glass building behind them reflected the morning sun, a quiet symbol of new beginnings, not born of money or fame, but of love, courage, and second chances. Before we close this story, if this moment touched your heart, please take a second to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us bring real, emotional stories of compassion and courage to life. Now tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Sophie's place that morning? Would you have had the courage to speak up? Sometimes the smallest voices echo the loudest truths. Sophie's bravery reminds us that even in a world full of fear, a child's heart can save not just one life, but many. And for Clara and Mr. Liang, that one act of courage was enough to rewrite the story of their lives. A story of faith, humanity, and the power of doing what's right, no matter how small or scared you feel. Because kindness spoken in any language can save the world.